What is the difference between a pan and a letter and a zettel, and when is it appropriate to use each? I think I answered this question already, but I'm not sure. A zettel and a letter are the same thing. A zettel just means a short letter, a piece of paper, a note. The big difference is between a pan and a letter. And I think letters go into two groups. Personal letters and letters about our work, about our askanis, which we would also call a duch, a din v'cheshbon, a stock taking and accounting of what we're up to, what we're doing. So first, let's talk about the difference between a pan and a letter. The difference between a pan and a letter is very simple. A relationship between a chassid and a Rebbe and a tzaddik exists on conscious levels and subconscious levels, meaning it exists on the levels where we understand the relationship. I have a mind, the Rebbe has a mind. I have a heart, he has a heart. I have senses, the Rebbe has senses. And I'm telling the Rebbe about my life and asking him to help me on the levels that I can consciously relate to, deal with the challenges and the realities of my life and the choices that I'm making in my life. But then there's the neshama dimension, the spiritual dimension, the subconscious dimension. We know very little about our soul. Most people meet their soul on very, very special occasions for very fleeting moments. It's mesiras nefesh, it's moments of great simcha, great tshuva, but it's not, we don't live up there, we live down here on the conscious levels. The Rebbe lives there. So his identity, he's a spiritual person, he's a soul person. Rabbi Gronel of Hashem, Zechei related that when the Rebbe became a Rebbe in Tafshin Yudaf, he made a comment that there were only a few tzaddikim in the last generation who could take a pidyon nefesh. He said 2 or 3, the Fiedike Rebbe, the Rebbe the Shved, the Belzer. I heard him once say also the Gerer. Ichel probira, the Rebbe said. I'll try. I'll try. The Rebbe took pidyonis. I heard from a very good source that when Hilge Belzer Rebbe passed, the Holy Belzer Rebbe passed away in 1957. So the young man, a Bacher, was in the Shtibelach in Yerushalayim, and he came to a Belzer Shtibel, and he heard Belzer Chassidim talking about giving a Rebbe a kvittel. They used the word kvittel, where we use the word pan. And they were discussing the fact that they used to go into the Holy Belzer Rav and give him a kvittel, and they couldn't do that anymore because he was nostalgic. So he asked them, who can I go to today and give a kvittel? And they told him in the early 60s probably, if you want a kvittel today, you're going to have to go overseas. You have to go to America. You have to go to the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Give him a kvittel. Because this is not just holy, this is spiritual, very spiritual. A pidyon nefesh is you're presenting your soul to the Rebbe's soul. Your neshama, your subconscious, the deepest levels of your subconscious, your neshama to the Rebbe's neshama, with the understanding that he knows what's going on with you and you don't. And therefore, in the pidyon nefesh, the only thing that's very, very important, that's representative of that, is your name and your mother's name. Shmai v'shem imre. Every person's name, this is the ticket to the neshama. And that's why in a pan, the only thing that you really need to put in is unrelated Achim alai. The Rebbe used to write alai, not avudi. Everything else is gravy. And the notion is you're presenting your neshama to a neshama id and saying, redeem my soul. A pidyon nefesh is a very, very spiritual document. And of course, if you write a pidyon nefesh, multiple people, so you'll start on top, ono le'eder ach prizivo, great mercy is a life for me. It's a fizik menachel va'al, and then you'll write somebody else's name, and so on. Now, there's an argument to be made that in a pan you should put nothing but your name and your mother's name, because that's really all that matters. Shmai v'shem imre. But we have some pidyonis that our Rebbe wrote. Don't ask me how we have them, but they not only we have them, but they've been published. You can read them in a book, where you see that the Rebbe actually made particular requests for himself, for the Rebbetzin, for his mother, for his brother, for his sister-in-law, and so on. So it's obviously acceptable that in a pan you don't only write your name, but you also write requests. But you don't write a laundry list of requests. The requests that you write reflect what you think are neshama interests. Health, parnasa, Yerushalayim, Chassidus, and probably before and above all else, his kashrus, the bond between Chassid and the Rebbe. These are the kinds of things that you include in a pidyon nefesh. But we're very particular. A pidyon nefesh, we write very, very carefully. We choose our words very carefully. Because it's a soul document. It's a neshama document. And obviously, as they say in Yiddish, Begeit and Vaser, you go to the mikveh before you write a pidyon. Not only before you go to the oil, before you write a pidyon. And you try to be very focused, with the understanding that you don't even understand what you're doing, because it's something that's happening on the levels of our subconscious, but the Rebbe is an neshama id, and he lifts us up, and he inspires us and gives us all the brachas in the universe and helps us serve Hashem to the best of our abilities and gives us all the physical, material support that we could possibly need to help us be able to achieve that. A letter, on the other hand, is a letter that you write as if you're writing to your father. You're writing a letter to another human being on a human level. Now, obviously, you don't write letters to every stranger. You're writing to the Rebbe because the Rebbe is the Rebbe. And he's your Rebbe, he's my Rebbe. I tell my students who were less than 30 years old that each person, saif kol saif, in the end has to develop a personal relationship with the Rebbe. However that relationship is developed, it has to be a personal, me and the Rebbe. And you share with the Rebbe, I think, a few things about people's letters. But the basic idea is in your letters you're writing to the Rebbe based on your own sense of yourself. And you share with the Rebbe what's going on in your life, the problems, the successes, the failures, questions about direction. What should I do? And of course, as the expression that the Rebbe used to use about the Friedrich Rebbe, du frag, the Rebbe wird gefunden weg wie zu entweder. You ask, the Rebbe will find a way to answer, is a key component in our corresponding with the Rebbe and asking him questions and asking him for direction, asking him for clarity. Some people open Igris Kaddish, they open the letters, Rebbe's letters. You don't have to do anything. There's no requirement to open Igris Kaddish. It's an option. You write to the Rebbe, and it's the Rebbe's business to find a way of communicating to you an answer. And very often people will say they've gotten a direct communication from the Rebbe through whatever means. And in a letter, you write your life as you understand it. So it's much more pragmatic. It's much more down to earth. It's much more detailed, and you include even things that are not the most important thing in the world. Then there's also a duch. A duch is keeping the Rebbe apprised of your activities, holy activities and personal activities. The Rebbe should know what you're doing. I put on film with so many people. I published so many Inside Chassidus, and this kind of thing. And the Rebbe has to know what's going on in your life. And of course, you and I both know that writing these letters is not just writing these letters to the Rebbe. Writing these letters is really also writing these letters to ourselves, which is why the Rebbe used to say to people who would say, well, the Rebbe knows anyway because he has Ruach HaKodesh, and the Rebbe would say, that's not your concern, I want a letter. Because when you sit down and write a duch, and the duch is light, as they say, it's deficient, you are aware of your lack of adequate effort in doing the Rebbe's work, and so forth. And the same is true in the other parts of our lives. So when we're writing a letter to the Rebbe, and a duch is a letter, but it's a formal letter with a specific function, where you're giving the Rebbe an accounting of what has gone on, what you're hoping to do, and the direction you're planning to go in, and you're asking for a bracha, and you're asking for direction. So they're in the same basic category because you're speaking to the Rebbe on the logical level rather than on the spiritual level. So that's how I see it. There's a pan, which is an neshama note, and then there's a letter and a duch, which is a note that you're writing as a person writing to his beloved father. Now, how often should you write a pan? And the answer is there are certain occasions. Rosh Hashanah, you write a pan. On your birthday, you write a pan. If you're going to get engaged or you're getting married, you write a pidyon. If you're going through a particular hardship, you write a pidyon. And then, of course, Gimel Tammuz, you can write a pidyon. Yud Aleph Nisan, you can write a pidyon. Some people write a pidyon Yud Shvat. A letter you write when you need. I always tell my students that going to the oil is a wonderful thing, and I know people who went to the oil every single day, who go to the oil every single day. I think it's a wonderful practice. I wish I could do it. That takes a lot of dedication and time and priority, but go to the Rebbe often as you possibly could. And you don't have to write anything. You can go into the oil and say to him. You can go in the oil and just stand in his presence and experience his kedusha and his peacefulness and go. When you need to, you write a pan. When you need to, you write a letter. So Pidyanos you write on special occasions. And letters you write based on the circumstance that's going on in your life. You want to keep the Rebbe apprised of your life, and you want to ask the Rebbe whatever questions you may have, and so on. I want to say two things about this. Number one, I believe that the Rebbe should know everything in your life. You should share with the Rebbe everything. The Rebbe should have a record of everything going on in your life. And it's funny to say, but this is not a post-Gimel Tammuz argument. This always was true. You tell the Rebbe something once, he'll never forget it. Never. And it's fresh like the day you told it to him, even though he's got millions of pieces of information about thousands of people. He remembers what you wrote to him better than you do. Perfect recall. So the Rebbe should have a record of your life. And as you go through your life, you should keep the Rebbe updated, what you're doing, what your job is, what your shlichus is, the people that you're involved with. I think that over the course of the year, we have to find occasion to share with the Rebbe everything happening in our life in an orderly and a consistent way. It's a very good idea for the Rebbe to be apprised of all areas of our life, because the experience is the more you tell the Rebbe, the more you give him opportunity to give you bracha and eitzah in the different areas of which you inform him. Which means when you write letters to the Rebbe, you have to plan them. It can't be, I'm going to the Earl today, what am I going to do? You should plan your letters even days or weeks in advance. You can plan, you're making a trip to the Rebbe for your birthday weeks before you start writing that letter, or for your engagement, or for your marriage, or for whatever it is. The letters have to be very thought through, very deliberate, and you should include in your letters everything that's important to you in your life. And the last thing I want to say is, keep copies of your letters. Keep copies of your letters, because your letters to the Rebbe are the summary of your life. It's the most honest journal. You're never honest with anybody like you are with the Rebbe. If you keep copies of all your letters and all your pajanas, you look back at it, you'll literally be able to recall all the milestones of your life that are important and meaningful, which is a good thing to do. I don't think it's a necessary thing to do, but it's a very good thing to do.